Hi, obviously I'm not an artist, and in this log I'm going to be displaying and discussing issue 19 of Hachette's Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol. Issue 19 comes with the Vanguard Tyranid known as the Parasite of Mortrex, which is not found in the Tyranid Combat Patrol, so it becomes an additional unit, so as each Combat Patrol seems to have one, and to date it's the final model in the force. The issue opens with the how to build instructions. Honestly, I did struggle with the build, specifically this part, as the contact points were not obvious, but at last I managed to get it together. The how to paint section, as usual, states to paint using the colours that have been attached to previous issues, which belongs to High Fleet Leviathan. Of course, as a tradition, this Parasite of Mortrex is painted in my modified High Fleet Hydra scheme. Here it is, and it can take a spin while we examine the rest of the issue. The Great Crusade gives a simple and effective explanation of what the Emperor of Mankind originally set out to do with the creation of the Primarchs, Space Marines and his massive armies. Namely, bring any perceived enemies to heel and reunite any previously lost colonies and human civilizations. The Emperor was particularly xenophobic and ruthless during the Great Crusade, crushing the Orc Empire led by Erlak Erg in the Ulnor system, two Xenos species, the Rangdan and the Herd, to a point that they no longer have a presence in the galaxy. However, when rediscovering a human-populated planet or system, it was very much join us, change your culture and beliefs if it doesn't align with the Imperium, or else. And this is because the Great Crusade's mission was to establish an empire based on reason and science, not the ritualistic and superstitious regime that ultimately it becomes 10,000 years later. Story time. The enemy within chronicles the remainder of Decima Squad, troops of the Astra Militarum, who I think are Welsh. Trooper Cutter laments on the day before's events as they fall back across a worn-torn landscape of acidic mud and trees with strange growths. You know, like Glastonbury. Earlier, Decima Squad were attacked by a huge bat-winged creature while on patrol. It shredded two of her squad mates and wounded Trooper Jones. Jones, I'm still thinking they're Welsh, with its barbed tail, but not before he fought it off with the Lasgun's bayonet. Cutter calls to Jones.
So, how's the hero of the hour doing?
It itches, he replies.
Don't worry, Doc says it's a flesh wound. No internal damage. You'll be playing scrumball again in no time.
Scrumble. Sounds like rugby, right? Definitely Welsh. The squad continued on in silence after the exchange, but was frequently eyeing the sky, concerned whether the winged creature would return and attempt a further assault. Approaching a bunker, the squad noticed a sign of a struggle. Kit and ammo crates were scattered upon the ground. Then,
Enemy sighted!
Yells Cutter as the creature from earlier had returned, darting and diving through the air. Sergeant Whalen orders two troopers to cover fire as the remainder of the squad headed inside the bunker. As they appear to be now safe inside the structure, Cutter notices Jones' state worsening as he is muttering to himself while sweating and convulsing.
Sarge, Jones is acting strangely.
When he kneels down to inspect him, Sergeant Whalen notices Jones' fever. He suggests that his wound is probably infected. Jones then screams. This forces the squad to clearly see movement beneath his flesh. Cutter, doing her best to fight off being physically sick, blasphemes.
Emperor's throne!
Then a Tyranid Ripper swarm explodes out of his abdomen, and Jones dies like a red shirt. A red shirt? Like the Welsh rugby team wears. I rest my case. More story time. We're back with Sergeant Ascaton and the Silver Templars in Bonds of Honor, Part 5. When we left off in issue 16, the Marines were still being hunted by the Tyranids. As they arrived at the opposite mouth of the tunnel, their communication boxes come back online and they immediately attempt to contact any battle brothers in the area. As it turns out, there are Infernus Marines nearby, and as Ascaton and his men left the tunnel area, the Infernus squad arrives. Armed with their pyroblasters, they are ideally equipped for the situation. One of the Marines steps forward and engulfs the tunnel with liquid fire. The pyroblaster roars as the Tyranid bioforms are immolated. The rest of the squad also contribute to the carnage, as well as Ascaton's men with their bolters. Eventually, the previously writhing with life tunnel is still, and the only sound to be heard was the sizzle of burnt Xeno's flesh and chitin. Now that Ascaton had brought his brothers to relative safety, he again thought of his missing rifle and began formulating a plan to retrieve it. Leaving the lore behind, we see information on the parasite of Mortrex and an opportunity to develop its background and name it. I'm not sure why you give it a name though, as Parasite of Mortrex is not exactly a typical Tyranid's designation and more of an honorific title. Either way, like last time with the Psychophage, I put the earlier part of the script that mentions the Parasite of Mortrex and the Welsh Astra Militarum unit into an AA, and let's see what it calls it. Wait, what? These AIs are getting out of hand. It comes back with categories of what it would be called in different types of settings and different types of personnel, and here's some of my favourites though. Mortrex's Needle, Barbed Herald, Needlewing, the Rending Ovum, which is just gross, Oviposterex mortexiana, which I can barely pronounce, Jones's Bane, which is too soon. Jones is barely cold in the ground, man. And
Brutespawn Zeta 9,
which gives me the opportunity to use my Space Marine voice. Swiftly moving on from that nonsense, we get the datasheet for the Parasite of Mortrex. With stats similar to the Winged Prime, it could be considered something of an assassin, as it can't lead any units. With lightning fast movement of 12, 6 strength 5 attacks plus a special attack, the ability to deep strike, and enable a penalty to shoot at and in some cases not be targeted at all, it's pretty formidable. However, the downside is that it's not durable to the point a single squad of troops with slightly better than average weapons could body it in one round of shooting. It probably needs an invulnerable save or ability to advance on charge to be considered truly lethal. Over page, we see its Barb Ovipositor is a special one hit, capable of wounding any infantry on 3 up, regardless of their toughness, for an impressive 3 damage. It Itches is the Parasite of Mortrex's second special ability, in which it forces a unit in engagement range to take a battle shock test even if they're not below half strength, which is usually the circumstances in which this would normally happen. Scenario 15, Alpha Strike, pits the 2 Terminator HQs and the Infernus Marines against most of the Tyranids to date. As is now the style, wins and losses are based on controlling objectives. Anyway, issue 19 is complete. The next issue comes with the final and special miniature for the Space Marine Combat Patrol, the Chaplain on Bike. Just as an aside, September is always my busiest month due to the nature of my job, so thank you for being patient with me as I continue to chronicle the collecting, construction and creating. Oh, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.